Hey guys, Drifter here. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different live on Twitch. If you've seen Steven Crowder run away from a debate, I decided that I could do his meme better. So tonight we're going to be doing a Change My Mind stream where I am taking challenges from any and all people in the Twitch audience to change my mind about any topic. It can be politics, I'm sure that'll come up, but we're also doing movies, books, literature, science, personal beliefs, food tastes, whatever it is that you want. So instead of ambushing college students with little gotcha things about, I'm smarter than you, it's going to be the other way around. You guys get to ambush me and try to change my mind. Instead of being a hardhead, I'm actually going to be open to change. And a super quick shout out to my sponsor, Gamer Advantage. You're going to get to see me wearing their glasses quite a lot throughout the course of this video. They're simple, lightweight, blue light filtering glasses that help me protect my eyes while I'm gaming, streaming, editing, whatever. Their 4th of July sale is approximately 20% off. Partner code STACK, so if you use code DRIFTER, that's another 10% off, and you'll roughly get 30% off of all of their elite bundles all weekend long. So if you've been interested in these, they're really not going to get any cheaper than right now. If not, it's also no worries. Let's get back to the video. So without any further ado, let's jump right in with our first challenger, Call 6 God. Hello?
Hello, I am here.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, how's it going? So you earlier said that you're a leftist, but sometimes people would call you racist, homophobic, and all things like that.
Correct.
So, I don't know if you know Caitlin Bennett. I'm pretty sure you do if you know Steven Crowder. She's another right-leaning.
Caitlin Bennett, that she worked for Alex Jones, and she's famous for being the high school student with the AR-15. No, she graduated college, then carried the AR-15 to college, and she may or may not also have pooped her pants.
Yes, Boo Boo Bennett, as everyone likes to call her.
I'm familiar with her.
Yep. She recently did a video on Father's Day, and I just want to know your opinion about it. If it turns into a debate, that's cool. If we both agree, then that's even cooler. So basically, can a mother have a fatherly role in a household is what her main question was. Can a mother have that fatherly role as a regular father could? Could a mother take on that role even though she is not an actual man herself?
So are you asking me from the perspective of a two-mom household, or just if moms can do dad things? Because if it's just can moms do dad things, I would say yes.
It's going to transition to the two household. It's also going to transition to trans mothers that turned into a male. I just want to know your opinion on those kind of things.
All right. As a little joke, J-Hub says there are dommy mommies. Thanks, man. That's not what we're talking about. It's a totally different kind of mommy. I am not a strong believer in really hard fixed gender roles. I would say that I believe that a child should have at least one positive role model of both genders. So in this case, say without a father due to accident, leaving, two moms, whatever, it would be nice to have an uncle or a family friend to provide a positive male role model for both a little boy or a little girl. That would be ideal, but I don't see why a mother would be impossible to handle some of these things or most of these things. It would take more time, more patience, more practice, and willingness to learn than a vast majority of human beings are probably going to do. But I don't see why a mother could not perform fatherly roles. I admit it should be by its nature much harder though.
Okay. So I'm going to throw out an example at you. So for example, if a mother has let's say for a son and the father leaves at a young age and the mother decides to become a trans man, so she would become a man. Would that be called a father? Would she be now the father that was before she was a mother, but would she be a father now? And obviously you could take on those fatherly roles and everything like you said. But I'm just curious, would you call that person a father at that point? Because they changed genders.
I would give me a moment to collect my thoughts. You've hit me with a much more challenging debate than I anticipated right off the rip.
I saw it. I like learning about how people think, and I just want to see how you think. That's all.
I'm not insanely attached to names and nomenclature. So if mom wants to be called dad for whatever reason, including transitioning, that's not an insane or bothersome thing to me. And the degree to which that, we'll say, new father can take on fatherly roles is going to depend on how much of male culture they immerse themselves in and how much of a role model they intend to be. Now, this is where you're trying your best to get me canceled on Twitch. And the trans, inside the trans community, there is a broad spectrum of people ranging from liking to cross-dress a little bit, to
Hmm.
full like huge body modifications, to more I think the right word might be queen kind of things. There are
Yeah.
people that will transition and truly live their life as a man start to finish, and then there are people that will transition and want to be a trans man, which would be a slightly different nomenclature for them. And I'm speaking for a community that I'm not a part of, so I'm walking over
Yeah.
minefields here. But I would say I don't see why that's a major issue as long as they're still being a good role model for the child, and as long as they put in the time and effort to at least learn about issues from a male or female perspective, whatever gender child they have.
Okay. Would you say that same thing about adoption? So let's say a trans couple, like, you know, if two of them were trans and they both dated each other and they were both trans, would they be able to adopt someone of, you know, obviously under the age of 18 or whatever? But, you know, would that be okay in your mind? Do you see that as an okay thing where, because in my opinion, I honestly do not care what gender they are, what sexuality they have, you know, anything like that. I think it matters dependently on what the type of person is. Because if someone grows up with racist parents and they're straight, you know, obviously they're not, you know, the kid's probably going to turn out racist. Not in all cases, obviously, but
No,
instead, if they grow up with a gay couple.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's what happened to me. You should have met me before I got the opportunity to travel the world a little bit.
Mhm.
My God, the things my parents taught me that weren't true.
Same here,
And
same
that
here.
I would agree with you. I would admit that it would be an abnormal situation, but I try to judge people for the people they are and less
Mhm.
so for the demographic they fit into. I wouldn't say that I'm so good that I, at least subconsciously, at the very least, wouldn't stereotype or be concerned or somewhat wary, but I would at least undergo the effort to learn about these theoretical people and who they are and how they act before I pass judgments on them for whatever group that they're a part of.
Yeah. So you would be okay with, let's say, two transgender people walking into an adoption clinic, and they're good people, obviously. You'd be completely fine with them getting a kid, right?
Yeah, as long as
'Cause
they check out.
would.
I'm in the same boat. I don't know how much you know about orphanages and adoption clinics and stuff like that, but in
I know a
most
little
cases, getting the kids out of these environments to almost any other environment is better. It's kind of insane.
It is, because it is overcrowded in that area. Very, very overcrowded.
Yeah, there's also a lot of families that will kind of like farm adoption kids and try to turn a profit on them, or they get adopted into the like super religious family, but the kid has grown up in a home and they don't know anything about that, and adopting to that
Yeah.
lifestyle is insanely complicated. So it's challenging, and I wouldn't deny the fact that if you're a straight child being raised in an alternative household of any kind, that there would be unique challenges there as well that I'm probably not qualified to speak on or have strong opinions about. I have seen personally families like that run great, and I've seen some of them that suck. So
Yeah.
it much more so comes down to the individuals and less so their demographics.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that we agree on that topic. I was just curious because I saw, obviously, Caitlyn Bennett, Boo Boo Bennett posted a video about it, and I was just curious.
It's a complicated topic, and I know why
It is.
Caitlyn and I'll play my own devil's advocate. The reason that Caitlyn and other people don't like it is because it's so radically different and scary to them. They have some fear that they're going to teach the child really bizarre things or force the child to have a gender identity that isn't natural to the child. And regrettably, there are people in the world that do that. There are people that try to raise gabies, and it's absolutely disgusting. But the vast majority of that type of adoption or doesn't go that way. I would wager not. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. And then one more thing: the best cereal is Cinnamon Toast Crunch. There is no debate on that, and I hope you agree with me on that.
I'm close. So you like Cinnamon Toast Crunch?
Love Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
There's a cereal extremely similar to Cinnamon Toast Crunch called Blueberry Muffin Tops. Have you tried those?
I've tried them. It's close, but I have to take Cinnamon Toast Crunch over.
They're definitely
it makes the
same
milk taste
ballpark.
amazing. Yes.
Awesome.
All right,
Well, thank you for really putting my ass to the fire for this first question tonight. I appreciate it.
Of course, man. All right. Have a nice night, Drifter.
You too. Fire Frog, what's up?
Oh shit, one second, I gotta mute the stream. Okay. So I want to talk to you about, this was brought up in chat, and I think it's actually a really good discussion topic, is like the whole Epstein thing.
Okay.
And what do you think happened during that? Because there's like a lot of talk about it being like a hit, and then there's other people who are really adamant that it was just a suicide and that the guards were either paid off or were just, negligent in their duty. So I'm just curious, like, what your opinion on that whole situation is.
I will confess that I'll be speaking from more ignorance on this topic than most because I did not research the suicide as much as I did most topics. So my knowledge pool here will be smaller. So for those in the chat or watching on YouTube or elsewhere, even you, fact check me if I'm wrong on this. So let's get the basics right. He got arrested. He was on trial for human trafficking and perhaps child pornography distribution or similar charges.
Yeah, there was other charges as well. I think there was some sort of like financial charges he was being brought up on as well. But yeah, those were like the two main ones that people were mostly and not necessarily interested in, but were mostly concerned with was the child trafficking as well as the
and the broader story was that Jeffrey Epstein himself was a pedophile. Or maybe not. It's in Conspiracy Town, but he definitely had like a young girl pedo island that he would fly people to for favors, maybe. And I've heard stories that he recorded these encounters and that there were tapes and recordings that people didn't find.
Yeah.
But we're gonna.
There,
that's the general
there was also,
story.
yeah.
Okay.
There was also like a logbook he kept of just like famous people or notable people he would interact with. And that's a big part of it because there's no like definitive proof that these people did engage in like illicit activities or just that he was writing down everyone. So there's a lot of speculation that he would interact with high profile people knowing that he was doing these things, and if he ever was caught, which of course he eventually was, that he would expose these people as being, associated with him. And so even if these people weren't engaging in illicit activities, they would be kind of, caught up in the whole, the reveal, so to say.
Like a reverse conspiracy, a bluff conspiracy, that they would be guilty just by association because the bad things that he was doing were perhaps better known, or if they did become known, it would be bad. Okay. So the question was about the suicide. Now, I want you to correct me on my facts on this one. I'm really struggling. He was placed on suicide watch in it was a federal holding cell, and he was given special food and utensils, special clothing, such as no shoelaces, no waistbands, very weak little fabric that's not supposed to be able to support weight, and things that are supposed to make it very difficult for you to commit suicide anyway, other than maybe just ramming your head into the wall. And he was also supposed to be on camera 24/7 with the camera recording and being monitored by at least 2 guards, if I remember correctly. These are all the right facts?
Yeah, there was 2 guards that were supposed to be watching him.
And during this time,
also, I just want to say the video of the apparent, suicide attempt was lost. They don't have it.
Yes, I'm getting to that.
Another reason, yeah.
I'm just having you walk me through the facts here so I don't say something dumb and get, clowned on in the comments. So then he officially committed suicide by, I believe they said he hung himself or he crushed his own throat was it with the clothing, or was that ever disclosed?
I don't know if that was disclosed.
Okay, but his throat was crushed and he asphyxiated at the same time that the camera failed.
Bedsheet, okay.
Chat says bedsheet. Okay, so use the bed. Even the bedsheet's supposed to fall apart. But okay, so the camera failed during this time, and during the time that both guards were supposed to be monitoring the feed, they fell asleep, and then the video also was lost, so you don't even see the camera failing. Or was at least not released to the public. I would say that is highly suspect. Unfortunately, I'm not able, based on that, to hard prove a conspiracy. That's one of those things like skill-based matchmaking that no matter how sketchy it looks, you have to have the evidence of the murder happening. But given that he's in the highest priority prisoner in the United States in a federal facility that's heavily monitored with 2 guards watching, a security system, and already on suicide watch, that is extremely suspicious. That is like, because those guards, if they screw up like that, they can never work again. Those are supposed to be the best guards. If the camera systems fail, camera systems don't just fail like that. I don't know if you've set up security systems around your house, but by and large, you set them up and they work for like decades on autopilot. And having them fail only during that one critical moment is like lottery winning odds.
Yeah.
So to me, the way this reads, and this guys in the chat, is not necessarily something that I would go to bat for in court or stand for, but more of a personal theory. I would wager that somebody very powerful wanted Epstein very dead, and that offers were made to probably people up and down the Justice Department, or at least within the prison. So they say they paid off the guards. It might not have been so much as the guards getting paid off, or the guards were being told, you can take this money, or you can die. You know, kind of the choice is yours here. And they made the logical choice because guards don't get pay enough to, you know, have their families be disappeared or whatever. Yes, the chat says the Clintons. Personally, I was leaning toward the British monarchy, the royalty. I would wager that they would have the money and connections as well. And there's not even necessarily saying it's just one person, because this was a massive logbook of people. It was Republicans, it was Democrats, it was officials from
like
foreign
both
countries.
sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It was also business people, like athletes and stuff. There were enough, there were celebrities, right? There were enough interested parties that had enough money to maybe pull something like this off, that it could have been anyone. And there's also this weird issue. Are you familiar of the relationship between what's his name? Who was Trump's chief secretary general? No, attorney general. Was it Barr? William Barr.
Yeah, Bill Barr.
Are you familiar with Bill Barr's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein's father?
I am not.
They were good friends going back in the day. And even
that would surprise me.
Yeah, Barr's father helped Jeffrey Epstein's father edit some of his smut novels that he wrote, which I read little bits of, and if memory serves me correctly, it was aliens that are really into anal, and this is back in 40s, where that was like really, really like not cool stuff. Yeah, hey, Muffins, don't hold me to this. I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel of the memory here, okay? So there was...
Someone fact check that.
Definitely. There was a relationship there between the parents of the Secretary General and the prisoner. And then, you know, Trump knew him too. And there's the stories of, you know, he provided the girls for the Trump party. And there were people that said that Trump liked young women and that Clinton liked young women. And it becomes such a mess that I don't know what to do. But the most suspicious thing for me, chat says the blue check marks got together and said take him out. Probably.
No, that sounds very likely.
The thing that surprises me is not necessarily that he died, because I was totally expecting that, but that there was no follow-up investigation. I don't remember any serious follow-up investigation. Could you name the guards? Do you know anything about them? Was the footage glitching ever released? Wasn't the autopsy partially redacted?
Yeah, the autopsy came out, and it was basically just the guy was just like, well, we don't really know. Like, it could have been, it was like very like wishy-washy. Like, it wasn't like a de facto like, yes, he killed himself, or like no, it was not. And probably, I mean, if it's honestly, it could be for the very same reason that, you know, we don't know the guards' names. Like, you know, they quote unquote fell asleep. It could be the same thing where the medical examiner was either paid off or, you know, threatened somehow. That they didn't like want to come out with a hard fast, like, yes, he killed himself, or no, he didn't.
Yes, you find that. So if you read a medical examiner report, which for weird reasons I have done, most of them are very boring and to the point. If you read one around a big political topic, usually they somehow get a lot more vague with all that pressure.
Yep. So yeah, I completely believe personally that he was killed off by someone. It would be very interesting to know if that was true, and if so, who did it. I think that Ghislaine, I can't remember how to pronounce her first name.
Ghislaine
Maxwell. Yeah, how that case is going to go, if it's going to go similarly or not, because I know she also had a notebook. Yeah, you can't trust the media either, because this was not
added to the Clinton count. Yeah, the Clinton count. No, I would agree with you. I would say that if I had to pick a belief, I would believe that Jeffrey Epstein was killed by somebody, and that it was covered up, and it would be at least one extremely powerful person. What I'm reluctant to do is to just point fingers at the person that I dislike the most and say it was definitely them, because the list is too big. I don't think that's fair either,
because there's definitely probably people who might want to appear as, you know, very like wholesome, or like not necessarily wholesome but innocent, that it would completely destroy their, you know, kind of professional persona. Because I mean, like, if it was Trump, for example, like, that's really not going to change too much of what we know about him. We kind of already know he is into some very fucked up shit. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't really change that kind of persona for him. But if it was like, you know, someone way more
Martha Stewart. It was
yeah,
Martha.
like if it was a Martha Stewart, that would completely shatter her kind of professional persona.
And that's one of the reasons that he could have died. Even imagine if Epstein didn't have any dirt. The public perception behind this was so nasty. People will kill to maintain their PR.
Yep.
J.K.
It's
Rowling.
anything people hate. Bad PR. Yep.
Oh God, J.K.
I
Rowling
work in marketing. I understand that.
Oh, you do? Okay, yeah. What kind of marketing then?
I work in graphic design. I work with a lot of marketing people directly, and I just know bad PR is something like bad PR isn't really something you can control in marketing, which is very much what marketing people do is they want to control public perception. And so when there's bad PR, that's just it's out of their wheelhouse, especially when it comes to like social media where, you know, so much is unfettered.
Yes, I've seen so many challenges go completely horribly wrong. Like McDonald's had the show me your food one and everybody started showing their food that got screwed up.
Yep.
Can't fix that.
Yep. Definitely a good talk though about this whole situation.
Same.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming in with something different.
Yeah.
And chat, no, there's been no questions about trans women in the Olympics. It's been good talking to you, Firefrog, and I'm going to rotate you out for Call 6 God.
Sounds good.
All right, Call 6 God, you're back again for the second time. What are you doing?
I feel like I have the most controversial topic of the night.
I'm ready for chat to
run me down. I'm ready for you to disagree with me.
All right.
All right. So I believe that only Advanced Warfare, that the Advanced Warfare supply drop system is better than the Season Pass system from Cold War and Modern Warfare. I see your face. I know. It's
okay. I'm gonna work on settling my stomach acid, and you tell me why it's better.
So, with the Season Pass system, you obviously know what you're getting, but what you get is worthlessness. You get literally nothing. You get a few charms, you get a few gun variants that do nothing to your gun whatsoever. So basically you are throwing your money away at skins and guns and just random stuff that you really don't care for. People get the battle pass and complete it because they want that final skin or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or that final gun that maybe changes colors or once in a while. Okay. And with the COD point system, I'm going to lead into this as well. It used to be $3.99 or $2.99 on Black Ops 2 or Advanced Warfare or Ghost to buy a camo. Now it is $20 for a camo, and it is $20 for a charm or stuff like that included with the camo or whatever. So I just believe that the system back then, especially Advanced Warfare system, because their supply drop system, I was there for the whole BO3, I believe it was called the Blackout. What was it called when everyone revolted against Black Ops 3?
Okay. Black Market Blackout, I think it was.
That's what it's called. I was there for all that. I was agreeing with them that their system was just terrible. It was really bad. It was worse than Advanced Warfare, because at least Advanced Warfare, you had a chance to get something that gave your gun power. It gave your gun an extra boost, if you will. It gave variety to the game that was actually fun. And every gun was different that you got out that supply drop. I understand that it was a chance, and I understand that people were able to get better guns than other people. I get that. But the chance of you being able to have fun with a gun, for example, the Kimbo pistols, those were really fun. You know, if you got a chance to play with those, you had a lot of fun with them.
Okay.
I see someone says he's a fan of pay to win. I am not a fan of pay to win. I'm a fan of having variety in your game and not paying $10 or $100 even for the whole battle pass, and $20 for skins that do nothing to your gun. They look crappy sometimes. I don't want charms. I don't want that type of stuff. Like the charms, you get random charms, you get random skins for your vehicles. There's no point or reason to that. Like you're basically giving them free money just so you can have a random charm, skin, whatever.
Okay.
So that's my argument. I loved Advanced Warfare. I think it's a top 5 Call of Duty. I love their supply drop system. I love how it worked. You would get free supply drops every, I believe, 45 minutes or 3 matches, which I think that was fine. Maybe if they ramped it up or the pace a little bit, I think that would have been better overall.
They twerked it up and twerked it. Tweaked it. Twerked is a different one. Tweaked it up. Yeah,
yes,
they twerked it. Condra got out there twerking them supply drops. No. It kind of went up and down a little bit. They played with the rates throughout the life cycle of the game. Okay, so I'm going to counter your argument.
Go for it.
Primarily mathematically here.
Okay. And that's fine.
And we're going to do this on an item basis and less so on a how much you like the item basis. And most importantly, you did want to get the new guns, right? Like when a new gun came out.
Yes.
Okay, so you want the new gun.
Yes.
Doesn't matter if it's a supply drop system or a battle pass system. Okay, so with the way we had this going on is we have the base game cost, which is $60, and that really hasn't changed.
Yes.
The old games had a DLC pass, which was also $60, and without that, you got none of the new maps. Now the maps are free for everybody, but the battle pass is highly encouraged, and we'll go through a couple of seasons. Would it be fair to say that, like, if you bought all the battle passes for 1 year of COD, that it would, I don't know, $40 to $60, you're gonna call it 50 and split the difference, 5 battle passes maybe?
Yeah, I'd call it about $50, $60, $50.
To let's say you don't even have to, but we'll just say that you do. You're participating.
Yep.
So the cost is roughly equivalent. You know, the battle pass kind of it pays like the DLC pass, but over time. But the question becomes, how do you get the new guns? So in the battle pass system, the guns are always level 15 and 30. They're pretty low down there, which is either 15 or 30 hours of grinding. And if you pay $10, they're free too. You don't actually have to pay anything. You get them for free.
Yep.
Now, if you wanted to get a new weapon in Advanced Warfare, which is easier to pick on than Black Ops 3, which got absurd, how much money do you think you would spend at $2 per drop?
I remember, this is from my experience. I know everybody else has had different experiences. I know that people like Merc Music spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on supply drop openings. I remember all that. I was, that was a fun time. I liked that time where everyone was doing the advanced supply drop openings. They were fun to watch, see what people could get. I personally spent, I'd say, around $20 per month whenever a new gun would come out, right?
Okay.
Roughly. And if I didn't get it, I can pick it up off of I know that's a terrible argument to make, but you can always pick it up off the ground, off someone's dead body. If you do run into that, that's a terrible argument. So I'm not going to go down that route. But the way that, for example, Ghost handled it with, you can buy, I believe, what gun could you buy? It was the Ripper, correct?
Yeah, it was part of the DLC, and then they made it where you could just buy it for like $4.
Yes. I believe that is better than the current system we have. But I understand that it was a chance-based system completely when it came to supply drops. I believe it was $20 for, what was it? How many supply drops would you get out of $20? Would you get like 15 advanced supply drops? Is that
they did this economy of scale thing. The more money you spend in bulk, the more you get per dollar or whatever. But what do you estimate the cost would be to get all of the new content? Like if let's say you join midway into the season or something, as it is now, when the guns move out of the battle pass, you can unlock them via in-game challenges for free. How much do you think it would cost to get the new content if you joined halfway into Advanced Warfare? I know the number for this because I did the math.
The exact number?
Oh, approximate because it's RNG.
Approximate. For how many guns that were in Advanced Warfare that came from supply drops and the variants of those guns, I'm assuming that you get one per drop. So I'm going to say around $100. Maybe less, maybe like $80 to $100.
To get all the new guns?
To get all the new guns, let's say you get really lucky, and I'd say it's around $100, maybe $200 to get all the new guns and all the variants to those guns. You're smirking, and I feel like that's probably way lower than what it should be. I feel like I remember you doing a video on this before.
So, I know the numbers for 2 different games.
Okay.
I'm gonna make you play hot or cold here, and I admit that I'm pulling these from memory a little bit.
That's fine.
I actually don't know Black Ops 4 number, guys, so you're going to have to forgive me on this one. So we'll do hot or cold with Advanced Warfare, and I will tell you that 200 is very cold to get all the stuff. So try again. And we're not talking full finished game. We're talking about halfway into its life cycle, so about 6 months in. And Otter of the Red Wall, thank you for the tier 1 sub. I appreciate it. Yeah, chat says it was an awful guess. I'm going to let you know.
I saw that, yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. So let me ask you this. Is it per variant equals 1 supply drop? And I believe 1 supply drop was $2.
Correct,
so is it per variant and per weapon?
You would get duplicates. And the new weapons were not guaranteed to drop any variants of it all, and in some cases they would be more rare. Now, since Black Ops 3 did not have variants, that's another good one to compare to because it came immediately after. You had to unlock the individual gun itself in a supply drop, and there was no variant to get. So Black Ops 3 is obviously going to be more money. So let's just stick with AW to get the stuff.
Okay. So obviously 100, 200 is very, very cold. Probably is around like $1,000, $2,000, probably up to $5,000. I don't see it being over that. I know people spent money, spent hundreds and hundreds of money, but I'm closer.
Yeah, much closer. Your first guess was pretty much on the money. Guys in the chat, I'm a little bit pulling from memory here, so I could be a little bit wrong, but I remember the calculated number being about $1,600 or $1,500 to get all of the content in the game.
Can I make a counter argument that I feel like is valid?
Okay, sure.
In Modern Warfare, we're going to take Modern Warfare strictly because Cold War is not over. I don't know the exact number. I'm going to think of a rough estimate. If you bought with COD points, you have to buy COD points obviously to buy the skins. If you bought every single skin, every single battle pass, the $100 version, I'm not saying everyone does, but let's just hypothetical. If you bought every single skin, every single gun, every single operator, everything. If you bought the $100 of each battle pass, which was, I believe there was 5 battle passes.
Yeah.
5 seasons. Okay, so that's already $500, not including all operators and everything. If you bought all that, do you think that would be less or more than that $1,600 range?
If you're talking especially with the skins, it would probably be more than that because they cranked out a lot of skins. I think that's an unfair comparison though, because in that system, you get to choose what skin you want. So for instance, I can actually go look at my shop. I think I've bought 8 total things over the course of Warzone, mostly anime skins. And I think I've spent about $100 on that, but I got exactly what I wanted every single time. In the case of Advanced Warfare, you don't get to choose what you get for your money. So like if I only want 3 things, I can spend my $60 and have those 3 things. If I'm playing Advanced Warfare, I could spend $6 or 6,000 and there's no guarantee of getting it.
Okay. What do you think is more beneficial to you? I know people have different opinions, like, oh, I'd rather have just some skin than a gun that makes my gun, a variant of that makes my gun better. What is more beneficial? By trying your chance to get a gun, let's take the what is it called?
Obsidian Steed.
Obsidian Steed, thank you. Let's take the Obsidian Steed, for example. Why not, spend $20 to get a chance to have a good gun, other than spending $20 on a skin and a charm and an execution? Where is the, I don't see that as a...
Absolutely the $20 on the skin and the execution. Now the game models changed. Advanced Warfare was an anomaly that had stat changing variants. The rest of the games did not. So that one was a little different. And I'll let you know that I spent over $2,000 on Advanced Warfare and I never got the Obsidian Steed.
Okay.
So the numbers don't scale. I think Black Ops 3 might be a fair comparison because let's focus on Black Ops 3 then, because there's no variants in that game, right? Well, I mean, they had like a bunch of cool designs and camos and like attachments, and this one breathes fire, but none of them were stat changing variants. But Black Ops 3 actually had worse odds and more guns. So in order to get all of the guns in Black Ops 3, you would have to spend roughly average, this can go higher, about $2,800, or we'll just call it $3,000 to get all of the new guns.
And that's why I didn't make the argument towards Black Ops 3, because they have a very much worse, even though you can get, if you get refunded, I believe, did they add that midway through where if you get the same thing, you get your cryptocurrency, you get your COD points
like
back, or whatever it's
called.
Or
or something, but even still, the odds were so incredibly low. Most of what you got were stickers and buttons. And that's what you're forgetting about. That's why I don't make an
argument towards that
How many elite Nigerian boots did you get in Advanced Warfare?
Quite a few, which you
Right.
could exchange those for XP, which I really, really enjoyed.
Which I had
That you can exchange
absolutely
all
no
your.
value for XP compared to money.
I was just saying, like, you can exchange them for XP. I understand that. I mean, technically, at that point, you could buy your way to Master Prestige or whatever. It would cost more money
Yes.
than anything else, but I just believe that the system that we have in place now, where you have to pay $20 for a skin, an execution, an operator, and then you get some cool like war track, whatever. I don't think that is as good as having a chance to get getting a variant that makes your gun overall better.
I don't even think the games should allow variants that make your guns better. And I also think that casinos have to love you, because
I know.
I think
I know it's very chance based. I get that. I 100% get that.
But it's not even high chance based. You thought you could get everything in the game for $200, and you were off by an order of magnitude at least. The reality is that I don't want everything in the game. Okay, like I don't want 90% of the stuff that's in the drop boxes, and I don't want 90% of the stuff in the store. But if there are items I want, I can say that is worth $20 to me. This thing, this one thing I want, and I can decide whether or not that's worth it, and I can spend $20 and get exactly that thing.
Yep.
In these other systems, I don't have the luxury of choosing what I'm spending $20 on. I can spend $20 and it is totally random, and the odds are stacked against me. And even content like new weapons, not just new variants, but whole new weapons, are fundamentally locked behind this paywall. I remember watching Pomage spend $2,000 to try to get a sniper rifle for a video when it came out. That's screwed up, and I don't support that. I know people that took out loans for this, so that's personal.
I remember when Jeff tried on every single game. I saw someone put chat put, and I remember him trying to every single Advanced Warfare video for a straight year. He want that quick bolt, could never get the quick bolt. But the value of getting a skin, like that's my thing. Like it used to cost $2.99 to get the bacon camo, the weaponized 115 camo, all these cool things. And I know that's a different game than AW, but I believe in AW you could buy exosuits, you could buy for $2.99 or whatever. I think that's the exact number. I'm not sure. But you could buy exosuits. You can buy these cool interesting packs, and you could buy the map. Like, you could buy like this. I'm not saying that the season pass is better than the battle pass, but it is cheaper if you do buy the season pass and if you buy the battle pass in every single season comes out.
You don't have to spend more than $10 to unlock the premium pass, and you get free stuff even if you don't want to do that, and you get the guns for free even if you don't want that.
Yeah, you do.
So you have not changed my opinion on this even remotely.
That's fine. I probably won't be able to change anyone's opinion, but yeah, I understand it's a tough, like for me, like I understand that it's tough to get people and persuade people that, hey, the AW system was not terrible. It was a decent system.
It wasn't as terrible as Black Ops 3 or 4.
No.
Black Ops 4 had a battle pass and supply drops. That was absurd. Okay, we got a lot of people queuing up, so I'm going to try to get all these guys in order. It was good talking to you again. All right, Final Hope 321. What's up?
Hi, Drifter. How you doing?
Hey, doing pretty good today.
So my topic for you is on gun violence, firearms ownership in America.
Okay.
Now, I identify more liberal democratically. However, I am a big firearms advocate. And my biggest thought is, in America, is there a need for guns or for a method by which you can defend yourself? I know you're no stranger to dangerous situations. I remember, I think you had a stream a while back. You mentioned you were in a very difficult situation about being harassed personally on your own property. And I'm sure that was a very difficult situation for you.
It was the night that I had to decide whether or not I was going to take a life.
Exactly. And I do not wish that choice upon anybody. But my thought being, and this is my personal opinion, is in a situation like this, in a country like this, is it beneficial to have more guns or less guns in a society?
Okay. That's a tough one because there are probably about 1 million people smarter than me debating this right now in a variety of policy think tanks. So you hit me with two different questions. The first one was, do we need guns in America? And then the second one was, do we need more or less? Which one would you like for me to focus on?
Let's go with, do we need firearms? Let's start off with that one.
Ooh, that one I believe is going to come down to a person's mindset more than anything. So there are parts of rural America where I would say that you need firearms for self-protection against animals. Our country is extremely big, and there are people that live in remote regions where there are a variety of hostile animals, and having a firearm of some kind is a good thing to protect your cattle, your property, yourself, hunting, sport hunting, all that's great. That's really not what we're talking about. So I think it would be fair to exclude that if you're willing to do that.
Correct. I would probably focus more on the idea of, are firearms necessary to defend oneself?
Yeah. And that decision ultimately boils down to sort of aggregate irresponsibility, because I think we would both agree that if you put 10,000 people together, some number of them are going to be crazy and some number of them are going to be very responsible.
That's true.
And the difficulty becomes what percentages you believe in and how much damage the crazy ones can have versus the gain that you get. Now, I very frequently hear that you need the second to defend the first, meaning that if Americans can't own guns, there's nothing to stop the US government from rolling in and just steamrolling our rights and kind of doing whatever they want to us. There's no more opportunity to rebel for us. And I also hear that if we didn't have guns, then our homicide rate would probably go down and the violent crime rate would go down. At least mass shootings would go down. You trade them for mass stabbings, which are more difficult to accomplish. So it kind of comes down to what you're afraid of and what losses you're willing to accept. So for example, if you are afraid of the big government putting its boot down on your face and taking your land and squeezing your rights, then you would probably believe that owning the guns and having the ability to defend yourself is worth the potential loss of life that crazy people will inevitably do with their firearms. But if you believe instead that the gangs and criminals and people with firearms and shooting at police and stuff like that is very likely, and that the likelihood of our benevolent government not taking things from us or not being abusive is minimal, then you would probably say that guns are an evil and that we don't need them, a burden. And personally, I don't know exactly how to feel about this. I wish people could be more intellectually consistent. It drives me crazy when I hear, what's the right word? When I hear a politician say that we can keep all the guns and get rid of the crime, because those are two totally different things. Right now, the decision that we are consistently making is to keep the firearms and the sort of anti-government sentiment and at least tacitly accept the level of crime that will be committed as a necessary evil or a trade-off.
They are very intertwined, a lot more so than I think some people realize. I want to go back to a point you mentioned about crime rates and like the frequency of that. Now, I know in some countries, such as Switzerland is propped up as the model for firearms ownerships. Everyone, I'm not sure if it's everyone, a large population, a large percentage of the population owns firearms, even though that they have a relatively low population. And this is due to I think it's mandatory military service.
Correct.
For most of the population, where people go to lengths to understand the firearms and get educated, and they, learn.
This leads into a topic that's going on in the chat right now. I'm going to swap back to the other screen. Call 6 God, who was just on here, says more education for firearms should be provided. But as per our current laws, there's little legal requirement for gun education in, well, really any capacity. I will give you an example from my family. An immediate family member of mine I visited recently. They sold a 1945 Oh, it was a 22 LR. It was a Colt Woodsman. It was a Colt Woodsman 22 LR pistol. It was like a classic, beautiful gun. They sold it in exchange for like a Kel-Tec 9mm that was rusty, and they're telling me about it. Pick it up, slam it down on the table with the barrel facing me, and says, "I got this for the purpose of killing a group of people, and I got these big bad 9mm that blow people up, unlike those 22s." And I, first of all, was very angry to have a gun pointed at me. But second of all, realized that the person who's telling me this doesn't understand the value of the gun they traded, or the relatively minimal difference in stopping power, to be quite honest. Because I immediately thought, well, if I'm going to do home defense, do I want this beautiful, accurate, classic pistol with like 15 rounds in the mag, or this this like rusty Kel-Tec that's probably going to jam? So there's very little education about guns, and people can buy them with no education. This happens at the gun range. I see people come up and they like want to buy the Desert Eagle just because it's the biggest thing, or
I mean, it's fun
it's a pain.
It's fun to like shoot it just to say that you've shot it.
Right,
but
I did that too, but there are people that don't want to
is...
shoot it. They just want to buy it, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to shoot it first?" I'm like, "No, I'll take it home. I'll figure it out." No, you're going to shoot yourself is what's going to happen.
You also mentioned, I think you mentioned about the or touched on the education or the licensing process. I live in a state where the licensing and education process, for example, to conceal carry, is abysmal, or better yet, like almost non-existent.
Arbitrarily restrictive. Yes. This is basically a Democratic policy. The Democratic Party, by and large, is not a big fan of firearm ownership. So what they'll do is they'll say, we need regulations to make sure that bad people don't get guns, and training and wait periods, and people say, okay, yeah, that's reasonable, and they'll slowly ramp them up over time to the point where the amount of bureaucracy that you need to go through to get a weapon or a concealed carry permit becomes next to impossible. I saw an example of a reporter from New York City, tried to get a concealed carry license, and this is a person who's a well-known public figure, travels to bad areas all the time, has been assaulted on camera, has done reports on the mob, and has survived several attempted hits and stuff like this. And the city determined that he didn't meet the qualification of need for a concealed carry pistol because, well, really, it's one of those things with arbitrary judgment, and nobody.
It's very subjective, and it's up to the communities themselves.
Yeah, so that's really brutal, which is the problem, and that's why groups like the NRA are so effective, because all they have to do is say no and use an example like that of why all policies are bad, because a number of them are abused. But the other side of that coin is like here in Texas, I've gone to a thrift store and seen a guy with like a 44 Magnum stuffed into a Glock holster, just waddling around with it for no reason. I've seen AKs in Walmart for no reason. That's grossly irresponsible.
It is. And I did want to mention just one other thing. Using the one country as Switzerland, for example. Now, granted, they have a relatively low population, and it's, I believe, a little easier to regulate that when you do have fewer people. Now, take a different country, such as Japan, which has a substantially higher population. They have a very, very low crime rates. As a matter of fact, I think it's one of the highest in the world. And I think the reasoning behind that is both societal and educational, in the sense that the restrictions on firearms in Japan are very stringent, very, very stringent. Hardly anybody can own, much less use a firearm for any reason. And there's actually I would say almost a stigma against firearms in Japan. But the other point being is that Japan is very communal. Their society as a whole, they focus on more than, say, in America, where everything is very individual.
And competitive, and we'll kill each other, no doubt. Historically, that happened. You can look at the Harlan County Wars. But I'm going to disagree with you about the crime rates in Japan. If you look closer into it, you'll see that there are an astonishing amount of crimes in Japan that are covered up, or complicated murders that become suicides, or just kind of get written off as accidents.
Would we say violent crimes?
Yes, violent crimes. It is higher than their official numbers for sure. How much higher is difficult because we're getting into the unofficial territory here. But if you read the book, I think it's Freakonomics, they go into this. Crime rate in Japan is not hunky-dory. It is really low in Switzerland, and you're right that there's different cultural values here. So Switzerland is very communal. They do have education required for their firearms, and Dandy pointed it out that requiring people to take classes before they buy guns is only harmful to people that don't have the ability to take off work or money to afford classes. I would disagree. I know you're a strong gun rights advocate, but I'd agree. I would believe that the harm to society for letting somebody own a gun that doesn't know anything about it is worse. So, for example, you talked about, or somebody, I think it might have been you talked about somebody coming to my house during harassment, and I had to decide whether or not to shoot them. One of the reasons I decided not to shoot them is because in the classes that I took for firearm things I don't want to get into on stream, I learned how dangerous it is for bullets to over penetrate your target, and how I need to make sure that things behind the target are clear. And I decided, based on the proximity of my neighbor's house, that I would be putting them in danger by opening fire. If I had not taken that class and learned that fact, and I thought it was Call of Duty where bullets stopped at the person, I might have accidentally killed an innocent person. So yeah, there's big differences there. Like in America, we will pull guns on each other. We have, organized crime. We have crime with police versus unions. Historically, if you look back, there's a number of political parties that are not above enforcing votes or crimes in a hilarious way that is kind of like the Dictator movie. So we have a cultural problem as well, and we have a cultural density problem that these other countries don't have, except for Japan, which is insane. So I don't know how they do it. Their population density in Tokyo, I've been there. It just makes me nauseous. I can almost not stand how many people there are. Whew. So I think we've covered this. I didn't give you a hard answer on more or less guns. My answer is that this is a topic that is above my pay grade. And if I were to be made magical president for life today, these are not decisions that I would make overnight. I would have to hire a serious team of people smarter than me to come up with better solutions than what we already have.
I understand, Drifter. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Anytime. All right, we're going to rotate out Final Hope. All right, True Blaze, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah, well, God, let me mute that stream. I'm hearing it twice. Sorry. So I had a question more about Call of Duty.
All right.
In your opinion, when you do like in-depth or you have exclusive videos or JGOD videos explaining weapon stats, how a lot of people treat it like gospel. Not saying, like the numbers aren't right or anything, but how effective are those numbers when they're mere milliseconds, where the difference can be 50 milliseconds or less in like TTK, or even if it's 100, 150? How is that in reality actually measuring that? Because like let's say if you take Warzone, you have over 100 players, so you have 100 different connections. You could have a great connection, but the person you're playing against is the person you're running into has like a 10 megabyte per second connection, something like that. I don't feel like they should really make that much of a difference.
You have opened a whole can of worms here. So the first thing is the measurements are roughly accurate to one frame at 60 FPS. I think that True Game data has moved up to recording on OBS with 120. But in general, the game doesn't render things right at that speed, and the editing software typically doesn't work at that. It would be better to think in accuracy in terms of plus or minus one frame. So a total of 2 frames or roughly 30 milliseconds, these kind of calculations can be off. Of course, you can measure it wrong too. And when it comes to connections in game, what you said is pretty much accurate, that we cannot control nor measure what other people's connections are going to do. And the differences can swing into very extreme numbers, where a very slow time to kill gun can kill you very fast with bullet stacking, or, you shoot people and they eat bullets and then you fall over dead. And that happens all the time. So the best information that we can present is what happens in a perfect environment, or what happens in a really good environment, because the developers try, they may not succeed, but they try to give you at least a good gaming environment. I would wager that the information presented is accurate to probably 90 to 95% of fights that you get in, and only a minority of those things are going to really skew those numbers in an extreme enough way to change who wins or loses a fight. But it does happen. If you think about it, you know, you log on, you kill 30, 40 people in a night. It might be 5 or 10 of those got skewed by the server for some reason. And we can't control that or predict it. So the best, it's kind of like economics. You take any economics in college or high school?
I did. I slept through a lot of it.
I'm sure you heard a lot about like perfect market and an ideal situation, and they'll show you what happens in like a perfect market. And we know that markets and people are imperfect, and the same kind of thing is true of the gaming. But the perfect market analysis is roughly representative of real life, and it gives you an idea of how things are going to behave most of the time. And that's roughly what we're doing.
Okay, so what would you think would be a good margin where two guns would feel almost identical? Like if one had a TTK of 525 and the other one was at 625, wouldn't that feel the same during gameplay?
100 millisecond swing is pretty big. I'd say about a 50 millisecond swing, because that's going to be about 3.5 frames. Usually the servers aren't going to be much worse than that. It's going to depend on the person and where you're playing from. But I would say 50 to 60. Let's do 64 milliseconds, which is going to be 4 frames. Any difference less than 64 milliseconds may not be that significant if you want to factor in lag into your decision making.
Okay, that helps a lot. I might move off of the Milano then, because I just don't like the way it feels.
I loved it on day one. I've been struggling with it recently. I was going to go back and play with it when I do Warzone again.
Oh wow, that's actually how I felt, because I used to run the Milano and the MG before the nerf, and it just isn't working the same way.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I wanted to say.
All right, you have a great night, Mr. Blaze. So guys, I'm just going to go ahead and hop off for tonight, and I'm going to get some rest, and I'll see you all whenever I can stream again. See ya.
Have fun.